Dance is the one exercise that really can improve the health and the well-being of your mind as well as your body, and tick a lot of other boxes as well, like socializing. You can socialize. It makes you happy. You never are lonely or isolated because you make friends when you go to a dance class. And I always say, I've never seen anyone come off a cross trainer or a rowing machine with a smile on their face. That was fun. Because there's no point taking on exercise if after 3 months you decide, I don't want to go to the gym anymore. Part of the evidence that we've uncovered is that when people go to a dance class, they stay. On the whole, people stay not just for 6 months or a year, but for a long time. It becomes part of their routine.
Today's conversation is pure joy and proof that movement really can change lives. I'm joined by the legendary broadcaster and campaigner Angela Rippon, CBE, who many of you will know from her extraordinary career in television. But today we're talking about her lifelong love of dance and how it's become a powerful force for health, confidence and connection through her Let's Dance campaign. Angela's connection with dance runs deep, from childhood ballet classes to presenting Come Dancing and later captivating the nation on Strictly Come Dancing at 79. It's a thread that's woven through her whole life, and now she's using that passion to get the nation moving again, showing that joy, rhythm and a little bit of courage can make every step count. Today I'm joined by someone who needs very little introduction, Angela Rippon, CBE. Angela has had an extraordinary career as a journalist, newsreader, television presenter and author, spanning nearly 6 decades. She's broken boundaries from being the first female newsreader on BBC TV and was the host of Come Dancing in the 70s and 80s, and then went on to be a contestant more recently in 2023 of my favourite Strictly Come Dancing. Angela champions healthy aging both on and off screen. I had the pleasure of meeting Angela earlier this year when we both took part in the Oxford Smart Aging Summit, where Angela was talking alongside the wonderful Sir Muir Gray, who has also been on this podcast. I was leading the audience through some movement breaks during the day, but Angela definitely stole the show when she had us all up dancing to It's Raining Men. It was such a joyful moment, and one that captures what today's conversation is all about. Movement, it's as connection, expression, and pure joy. So, Angela, before we talk about your brilliant Let's Dance campaign, I'd love to know a little bit more about your own story. So when did dance first come into your life?
When I was about 4 or 5 years old. I had knock knees, and that was unacceptable apparently, and I was taken to the family doctor, who said we can either give her built-up shoes to put her knees out again, or you can send her to a ballet class. And my mother fortunately sent me to a ballet class, and it was sort of duck to water time. It was Miss Delver's School of Dance in Plymouth, and I went there as a little, as I say, 4 or 5 year old, and loved it so much that by the time I was about 6 or 7, I then went to the Geraldine Lamb School of Dance in Plymouth, which is where Wayne Sleep actually started his career also.
Wow.
His was rather more glorious in the world of ballet than mine was. But I did ballet and tap and modern dance, did all my exams, loved it. And then at 17, when I'd reached sort of intermediate level at ballet, I had to give it all up because I had to settle down to academic work. And anyhow, I was too tall to be a ballerina.
Oh.
Didn't have the talent anyway. I have to be honest. I loved dancing, but I was never going to be another Darcy Buttle. So, but I concentrated then on what I really wanted to do, which was to be a photojournalist. Because I'd been taking photographs since I was about 6 years old. My father had given me he carried a camera all through the Second World War. And he had some amazing photographs from his career, which ended, funnily enough, in Japan, when his ship was assigned to the 5th American Fleet. And he was there when they dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And he was present when the Japanese surrendered to the American 5th Fleet. So he had a very interesting war, and took all these wonderful photographs, which we have in a family album. And I used to sort of look at these when I was a little girl, and my father would tell me about the stories behind them. And that made me want to be a photographer, a photojournalist. And so that was what I did. I did an apprenticeship well, it took nearly 5 years, I think, it's photography first and then journalism, and got my qualifications as a journalist, at which point the BBC rang me up in Plymouth and said, which is where I was working, and said, would you like to come and see if you'd like to work in television? So I did an audition and they offered me a job, and that was really the start of it.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. And there's been certain points as well through that career where dance has been quite sort of famous spotlight, hasn't there? A certain moment that I know you talk a lot about a Mr. Mr. Morecambe and Wise.
Yes. I mean, well, interestingly, I think I've at that same conference that we were at, I think we had a wonderful Japanese speaker who talked about the nirvana being met when you are able to combine your passions with your profession. And I've been very fortunate that I've actually, as a broadcaster, certainly, I've managed to combine what I do as a broadcaster with my passion for dancing. I've made a number of programs about dance. I did a documentary just called The Hoofers, when I interviewed wonderful people like Sammy Davis Jr. and Ann Miller and all sorts of wonderful dancers, Honey Coles, terrific dancers. But I've done a lot of programs also that involve dance. When I was doing the series How to Stay Young with Chris Van Tuleken, I did one whole section of a program where I went over to Germany, where they were running a proper evidence-based research program to see what was the best kind of exercise you could possibly give to people over 60. Right. And in one of the German universities, they had 30 people, roughly 30 people over 60 to the age of just under about 90, I think 80, 85, 86, 87, who were dancing, and the same group, same age group, who were in the gym. And the thing that combined them was they all had to exercise to the same music. And it lasted, I think, for 6 months. And during that time, their heart rate, their lung capacity, their strength, everything about them was being regularly monitored. And at the end of that period, they discovered what I think lots of other research programs discovered before and since, which is that the dancers came out the fitter and the stronger, because dance is the one exercise that really can improve the health and the well-being of your mind as well as your body, and tick a lot of other boxes as well, like socializing. You can socialize. It makes you happy. You never are lonely or isolated because you make friends when you go to a dance class. And because of the endorphins and the dopamine that you naturally give off in your body, the dopamine is the one that makes you feel happy, and the other is the one that is your natural painkiller. And so you come out of a dance class feeling happy.
Fantastic.
And I always say, I've never seen anyone come off a cross trainer or a rowing machine with a smile on their face. That was fun. No, when you come out of a dance class.
Sorry. And you're absolutely right, because I talk a lot about the joy, finding joy in movement, finding a movement that brings you joy, because we all know that sort of feeling of almost flow state where you're in the moment, you're not thinking about anything else, you're present, you're having fun, and you certainly are not sitting there looking at your watch thinking, when is this going to be over? Right. And sort of getting through it. Yeah. Where obviously, you know, as you've just said, when you're on the cross train, it's like, can I do 20 minutes? It's painful.
Exactly.
And you kind of wonder why, especially when, as you've just said, there's evidence that you're actually going to be better off if you go and have a great dance.
And with dance, of course, all exercise is good for you. Don't get me wrong. You know, if you decide to do a park run or go to a gym or do weights or whatever, any kind of exercise you do is really good for you. But dance, genuinely, in all the evidence-based research material there is, comes out as being the best because it ticks every single box. And just think about it, when you dance, you do use every part of your body from your toes to the top of your head. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever come across Daisy Fancourt. She is, I think, one of the world's leading experts on the value of the arts in general, to our mental and physical well-being. And she has come up with a wonderful turn of phrase, which is that first of all, music is the engine that makes your feet move, which is true.
Absolutely.
It does. But that dance is, and I hope I get this right, it is the one legal performance enhancing drug you are ever going to need, because of everything that it produces and makes you feel good. And I mean, the knock on from that is that the combination of those two naturally produced chemicals have been shown to do in research amazing things for people, for instance, who have cancer, in that they help to reduce any pain that is involved, either with your treatment or the condition. And they certainly speed up your recovery if you're going through any form of cancer help. And there's a whole body of research now which is suggesting that if you can dance and it helps your recovery, there's a more than a 70% chance that 3 of the cancers will never recur. And those are prostate, colon cancer, and breast cancer.
Wow.
So, and you said that there are three times in my life when dance has been important. So, yes, come dancing, which I did end of the 70s, beginning of the 80s, which was absolutely wonderful, which I presented, which was sort of the grandmother, if you like, of Strictly Come Dancing.
Yes.
In between then, sometime I danced with Eric and in their Christmas show it was 1976, when we got 23 million viewers.
Yes.
We just wouldn't get now, but that was wonderful. And then, as you say, 2 years ago now, I danced in Strictly Come Dancing with the wonderful Kai Woodrington, who is a brilliant teacher, wonderful dancer, great partner. And we managed, I only agreed to do it because I thought, if I can manage not to get knocked out in the first round and manage maybe 1 or 2 weeks in the competition. But I actually managed to get to week 9 to Blackpool and just loved every minute of it. And it was the reaction I got from people to that performance, excuse me, that made me real. I mean, people were saying very, very flattering and very kind things, saying, a lot of people saying that I had inspired them to think in terms of dance, regardless of age. But I mean, I was 79 at the time. And they said, well, if she can do it at 79, I should be able to do it at whatever age. But it produced so many wonderfully positive reactions that it made me think, well, yes, if that's how people feel I've inspired them to think about dance, why don't I try to create a platform where they can actually take advantage of that? And I came up with the idea of Let's Dance.
And can I just ask a little bit about that Strictly experience? Because there are a wide range of people who take part as contestants. I've been an avid watcher for years. It never fails to make me smile pretty much throughout the entire episode. And there are very few things in life that actually do that. Nice. And I'm now sort of, pretend judge as well. I'm sort of looking at the footwork and trying to second guess what they're going to say. But you also really captured and amazed the nation's hearts with your high kick that was sensational and very unexpected. And that moment for me was one that was one of the most powerful age positive statements you could have made with your legs, because it was absolutely saying, why at any age could I not? And why should I, as the viewer, have been surprised? And I think that just rewrote a lot of people's thoughts on what you can do as you age, and what you want to try and put yourself up for the whole experience, but also what you can accomplish in that. Tell me, it looks really, really difficult when you see the sort of training sessions day in, day out. How did your body feel from that relentless level of dance?
Well, to give you an idea of the the program for the week, we would go in on a Monday morning, and Kai would have worked out the choreography for whatever it was we were going to do that week. He would teach me the pattern. He would show me what he wanted me to do, and I would remember that. I fortunately have a sort of semi-photographic memory, which helps enormously in my job, and helped prepared because I could get the pattern very quickly, where I was supposed to be and what I was supposed to do. And so I managed to get that by lunchtime. And then in the afternoon, we would work on the technique. And then did that for the rest of the week, the technique and polishing what we were doing. Because as I discovered, there's a Rumba walk, which is not your ordinary walk. There's a cha-cha walk. I had to learn how to do a heel turn, the famous Len Goodman heel turn, yes, for the foxtrot and all the other things. So we would rehearse minimum of 6 hours a day, sometimes 7, but mostly 6 hours. And in that time, literally, Kai was showing me how to do what it was he wanted me to do, putting it together and making the performance the best that I could possibly give. The leg thing, for instance, is an example of what we were doing. He at the time was 29, and I was he 29? I was 79. No, he was 28. That's right. He was 28 and I was 79. So there was a 51-year difference between us. He wasn't even born when I did Morecambe and Wise, and his father was only 6 when I did it. So I mean, that shows you the age yes, difference. And his dad had said to him, "You should watch Morecambe and Wise," which he knew nothing about. And as he says, he's probably the only person who ever saw the Morecambe and Wise thing together, actually physically watching it with me, because he said, lovely, "I have to see it." And so when when I did the high kick in that, he said, "Can you still do that?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, well, show me. So I did that. And he said, "Do that again." And he caught my foot and he said, "How high will it go?" And I said, "I don't know, let's find out." So he just kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it until it got there. And he said, "That'll do." And that was how we worked all the time. He would say, "Can you do so?" For instance, when I did the rumba, I did the double splits, did the splits one after the other. And he said, "Can you do that?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "You can do the splits." "Yeah, well, let's try." So we tried it. And that was how we did everything. He would say, "I'd like you to do this. Do you think you can do it?"
Yes.
And we'd find out how we did it. And so we did Monday to Thursday, minimum, as I said, 6 hours a day rehearsal. Thursday, we would go to Elstree, to the studio where it's recorded, where for the first time we would do it 3 times, rehearse 3 times on the floor, not with the orchestra, but with just to get the feel of the size of the studio. In the afternoon, we would then, and everybody was doing that, and then in the afternoon we would do it with the orchestra for the first time, so you hear the actual music and not something that's on the tape. And then go in on the Saturday very early in the morning, do hair and makeup very early. We would have found out what our costumes were the day before. We would again have a rehearsal with the orchestra. And then in the afternoon, we would do a dress run, the full thing, and then the performance in the evening. And so on a Sunday morning, I would go off to up to St. John's Wood, where there's a wonderful clinic where I would stand in a cryo chamber.
Oh, really?
With the temperature dropped to -24 for 3 minutes, which is absolutely wonderful because it sort of perks everything up, and then have an hour's massage. Yes. But my body, I mean, I am flexible and I do exercise, and I always have done, so my body stood up to it very well, actually. So, which I was surprised at, but
what a wonderful way around of doing it. I love that Kai said, "This is what I think you can do. Can you?" So that there was never any sort of, well, given your age kind of nonsense. It was, let's do this. And that's, we need more of that attitude in general.
He kept challenging me. I mean, that was he would challenge me every week, and we would see what we could do. And if there was something, I mean, what I did discover is that with age, when I was young, when I was 17 and doing ballet, I could turn without any problem at all. But as you get older, your inner ear doesn't work in quite the same way. And I found that I could do 2 turns, but no more than that. Otherwise, I got really giddy. But that, I think, was the only thing we found that I couldn't do. But it was lovely to be challenged. Yes. And it was just great to just do it. I mean, I had a ball. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Well, we all had a ball watching you. It really was superb. And, that's why the show keeps going, quite frankly. It just gets stronger and stronger.
Yes.
So let's move on to the birth of Let's Dance. So obviously you were hugely inspired by that moment where the nation said, "This is fantastic." But what were the thought processes to then get you to thinking about what you would establish, because it's a big venture and a big dream that you have realized. So I'd love to hear about that process.
Well, to start with, as I say, so many people who were of all ages, actually. And still, I mean, I still get people saying, talking to me about come dancing and saying, thankfully, how much they enjoyed the performance. But basically, a lot of people of my age group said they found that I was inspiring. And I thought, well, why can't, if I can do it, why can't they? And my initial thought was to organize something that would get the nation dancing, but particularly people over 60. And because I'd been involved with dance for a long time, I mean, not just, dancing until I was 17, then I was on the board of English National Ballet for 10 years. I was then its chairman for 3 years. I had a lot of contacts still in the dance world through Come Dancing. I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if I could seriously get more people over 60 recognizing this wonderful statement that I came across, which is that you need to make an investment in your well-being pension plan.
Absolutely.
So that you find an exercise you can do. It's all very well, going to the gym or doing a park run in your 20s and your 30s, your 40s, your 50s. I mean, even in your 80s even. But there are many people who do not want to go to a gym and for whom that is not the right kind of exercise. And so if you can do something which works on your core strength, your balance, your coordination, that you can do still when you're in your 70s, 80s and 90s, dance has to be the answer. So how do I get that message across that dance is not just a wonderful entertainment to watch, if you go to the ballet or a musical show or watch a musical film or watch Strictly. It is actually a great way of exercising and meeting other people and getting over loneliness and so on as you get older. And so I got in touch with all of the dance organizations with whom I was familiar and said, look, I would love to do a national campaign to try and get people aware of the value of dance as an exercise. Can we have a national day of dance? And fortunately, everyone that I approached, including things like People Dancing, Dance UK, the National Association of Teachers of Dance, the Imperial Society, the Royal Ballet, Royal, all of the dance organisations, the Royal Academy of Dance, all the big ballroom dancing organisations, and they all said yes, we'll work together, because they'd all worked in silos, in their individual organisations doing wonderful things. None of them had ever come together. And I said, dance has got to have one voice. Yeah. Everything that you do in your individual silos is wonderful. But if we all come together and show what can be achieved, the voice is louder, we get a bigger profile. Absolutely. And they all said yes. And so we started to, through their organizations and the access that they have to the teachers who are registered with those individual organizations, started to put together this plan of having a National Day of Dance, which we did on March the 2nd this year. And we approached individual teachers. The idea was that they would open their doors on that day and say to people who were already dancers, bring along someone who's a friend who's never danced, or, we had BBC Radio all over the country supporting us, so teachers could go and say, if you've never danced, come and see what I can do. And so I think we had something like 20,000 teachers involved in the four countries, England, Scotland, Ireland and Wales. We had in Cornwall, the Eden Project gave us one of their domes. Fantastic. In Scotland, the King allowed us to use Dumfries House. In Northern Ireland, we had some amazing stuff going on with teachers there who were doing extraordinary things. In England, we were in the in Blackpool. We were in the Winter Gardens. We did something brilliant, the Royal Ballet School, which is not a school for anybody to go to, only those people who want to be professional dancers. They have a wonderful centre next door to the Royal Opera House where they have, I think I'm right in saying, 6 studios that are always in constant use. On the day, they turned 4 of them over to, one was doing ballet, one was doing mime, one was doing West End dance, and one was doing commercial dance. And they opened their doors. People had to register to go because it was a school. They got through 640 people in a day because they had 4 studios running simultaneously. and they had nearly 1,000 people on the waiting list. So they're doing it again. But all over the country, we had individual dance teachers doing stuff. It was just wonderful.
I hope you're enjoying the conversation. I'm just taking a quick break to ask you a question. Have you started to notice that the everyday things you used to do without thinking, like getting up off the floor, lifting the shopping, or hopping over a stile, now take more effort than you feel they should? Well, if your answer is yes, you are far from alone. And I'm excited to tell you that I've written a book to help you. It's called Move Well for Life, Unlock the Life-Changing Power of Everyday Movement. As you'll know from listening to this podcast or following me online, I don't talk about chasing fitness trends or imposing rigid routines. Instead, my message is all about learning how small, natural movements woven into your daily life can help you feel stronger, more confident, and ready for whatever life throws at you. Move Well for Life is available to pre-order now, and it's out in January here in the UK and Europe, and later next year in America. You can find the link in the show notes to read more about it, or simply search Move Well for Life and Wendy online. I firmly believe that every movement counts, and it's never too late to reclaim yours. Now, back to the episode. And tell me, did you achieve your over 60s presence as you'd hoped?
Well, yes, we did, but except that all the dance teachers said, "Well, why just confine it to the over 60s? Do it for everybody." So, and they were quite right. But I mean, we had a lot of over 60. We had a wonderful group up in Harrogate, where I think there's a teacher up there who started with just one class. She now has 5 a week, one every day, 5 a week. And she had something like 240 people turned up. It was just amazing. So it's grown because not only now are the teachers themselves all involved in doing what we're doing, and they're going to do it again next year on March the 8th, but my own knowledge of what was happening, obviously, where dance was concerned, increased as well, to the point where I got in touch with, and in fact, before I even started any of this, I got in touch with Chris Whitty, who was the Chief Medical Officer for England, because I'd heard him on radio saying that we should all take more responsibility for our own health if we want to help the National Health Service save money on the annual budget. And I rang him up and said, "Look, if I can get this going, would you back what I do?" And he said, "Yes."
Fantastic.
And he has supported us from the very beginning, as has Lord Darcy, who did the great report for the government. So I went to Wes Streeting, who's now the Secretary of State for Health, and said, "Can I tell you what we're doing? And I think that actually, if we can get it organised through the NHS as well, we can probably help to save you lots of money." And because I had done my research and discovered, for instance, what every year on average 1.6 million people over 60 have a fall.
Yep.
That fall could lead to serious injury. You could break, a knee, an ankle, a hip, a wrist, crack your head, whatever, and be in hospital for anything from 2 weeks to a couple of months.
Yep.
It cost the NHS in excess of £3 billion, just that one part of it. And if those people then have lost their confidence and then find that they stay at home, then they're going to need social services. That's another $1 million on the budget. So we're talking about 4 million there.
Yep.
If we can save, a part of that by reducing the number of people over 60 who have falls, look at the difference that would make. I got involved with social prescribing, which is something that was started several years ago, but is not universal in Britain.
No.
Because many doctors cannot get funding for it. But social prescribing, all the GPs that I spoke to and the faculty of social prescribing that runs it says, we want, there are GPs out there who want to do this because they've recognized for things like obesity, stress, depression, early stages of mental health problems. Very often, they don't want to write another prescription for depression or stress. No. They want them to do something like go to an art class, go to a pottery class, go to a dance class.
Yeah.
But it has to be funded. So I did all my research on this, found out that in Parkinson's, for instance, talking to Parkinson's UK, there are 153,000 people in Britain who are registered as having diagnosed with Parkinson's. Just over 50,000 of those go to a regular dance class. And the people who go to those dance classes, if you talk to Caroline Russell, who is the CEO of Parkinson's UK, she will tell you that dance is a miracle. It's not a miracle cure, because there isn't a cure for Parkinson's. But what happens is, if you want to be technical about it, the hippocampus is the strong part of the brain here at the back that remembers music, and which is why it's wonderful singing for the brain and dancing for the brain for people with dementia, because they remember the music and they remember the words. But when it comes to people with Parkinson's, the music acts like an engine to drive the body. You know, even if we're fit, if you play a piece of wonderful music, you tap to it, or you click
the rhythm,
or you move to it.
It
makes you move. People with Parkinson's, it can help their gait, it can help their coordination, it can certainly improve their core strength, their balance, and their coordination. And as Caroline has said to me, you can go to a class and not be able to tell sometimes the people with Parkinson's from those who don't. Because the wonderful thing is, as well as all those physical things that it does for people with Parkinson's, helping to improve the way they walk and their coordination. Imagine what it does to them emotionally and psychologically when they realize that during a dance class, they take back control of their body from the Parkinson's.
Absolutely.
And the number of people that I've met who say to me, who have Parkinson's, when I go for my checkup, my doctor says, "What have you been doing? What have you been taking?" I say, "I've been to a dance class," because their condition improves.
Yes.
It's not going to cure people, but it will make their lives better. And that's just and the work that we can do with young people with mental health problems now. Something like 1 in 5 young people now complaining of mental health. I'm going to flood you with information, because this is what makes this work.
Exactly.
That, again, the research shows that a quarter of girls between 14 and 18 are registered as self-harming. What is happening to our young people? But in those schools where they have dance, and there are very few of them, but where they are, they're wonderful. They find that they have less disruption in the classroom. They have less absenteeism. Children turn up on time, and there are fewer children who are excluded, because it gives them a purpose. It helps them with their social contact. It helps them with their social skills. But more importantly, it livens them up. I mean, any kind of exercise would. There are so many schools now that don't have playing fields or gyms anymore. No. But if they do a dance class, their level of concentration can improve by anything up to 20% in other subjects that they do. And we want to get this into schools. So I took all of this to Wes Streeting and said, "Will you back us?" And he said yes. And I'm now working with NHS and the people who are now running it, the NHS. And we are hoping that we'll get, for instance, more dance teachers into hospitals so that they can work with people in hospital. That we'll get, now we've got NHS recognition for what we do. And all of this will make such a difference as we grow with Let's Dance and more people recognize the value, the health value of dance. And so that's where we are now, with all sorts of exciting things coming up later this year.
It's really, really fantastic. And it often does take someone with a large platform like you have, where people want to follow someone like you because you've inspired them. And what I love about what you were just saying there was how intergenerational that is. You've talked about different generations. You've talked about people with different illnesses. It's spanning everyone. There is no one that it doesn't benefit. And I talk a lot about movement as medicine, but also just that joy of movement. There is no one, even people who are very restricted in their movement, that can't get benefit and joy from tapping the fingers and singing along. We can dance even with our head. It's incredible. So there literally isn't anyone that it doesn't touch. And the fact that we have to be pushing so hard to show how beneficial it is kind of a shame, because it's so obvious to us, but at the same time, there's been so much messaging about and there's quite a lot of pressure with the word exercise these days, which is kind of sad, because there's been a few decades of really strong movement forward with people's understanding of the benefit of exercise. And yet a lot of that misses the message of how important joy is, connection is.
Yes.
And all of these things are really critical parts to the whole piece that dance and what you're doing bring together.
Yes.
So I think that what you're trying to do, to me, seems that you're trying to shift that public perception of exercise into a space where it's saying, I am capable, I'm able, I can have joy, we can have fun, rather than we've got to do this 3 times a week, it's got to be painful, we've got to sweat, we've got to wear odd clothes. Well, obviously, if you want to get sparkly with Strictly, you can, but yeah. So it's, you know, that was why obviously I thought this is a really important podcast episode, because we can talk about how beneficial dance is, but you describe it so well because you've done the work, you've got the evidence, but also you are using your contacts brilliantly for such good.
Yes.
So I'd love to ask about your sort of motivations to keep this going. How are you hoping that organizations and so on can make this wider? Because you talked about, obviously you've got your day in March, which is fantastic, but how can people themselves who listen to this and think that is amazing, but I want more, how can they also get involved, either to support what you're doing or just to get involved themselves?
Well, first of all, it's down to the dance teachers. I mean, you know, they're at the coalface, if you like, doing the majority of the work in the field, as it were. They open their doors, as they will do again on March the 8th next year. But you know, if you feel you'd like to go along to, just go online and find out where your nearest dance teacher is, and go along and say, I'm interested in this. You'll more than likely find that they're part of the Let's Dance campaign anyway. You know, can I watch a class? Can I see what you do? Can I get an idea? And just, you know, find yourself either joining in or thinking, well, no, it really isn't for me. But, you know, taste it, sample it, see what you think. So that's really the first thing. The other way that I'm hoping to extend it, I mentioned Daisy Fancourt, and I sort of moved across there because this is her latest book, and it's called Art Cure by Daisy Fancourt. And what is interesting is that on the Monday of the Labour Party conference, I was asked to chair a debate on the value of sport and the arts to the health of the nation. And we were talking then at all level about the way in which all kinds of sport and art, but dance in particular, can help. And Daisy has written, as I say, this book, and I'm going to show you this. There are 340 pages about how valuable it is. This bit here is 100 pages of acknowledgements of all the pieces of the research that exist that back up the evidence. So, you know, there is evidence there. Yeah. And so what I'm doing is, as I say, working with the NHS, and hopefully next year, the NHS is going to be dancing in every hospital in the country. They will be doing it. People will become more aware that it's not just an entertainment, it's something that they can do and join in. I'm hoping that 2 days before March the 8th, which would be March the 6th, wouldn't it? We're going to get all the MPs dancing in Westminster in Portcullis House.
Yes.
To make it available. I mean, just by raising the profile of what we do, so that it becomes one of those things that when people think, ooh, you know, I'm putting on a bit of weight, or I'm feeling a bit depressed, or, you know, I've just had an operation and I really want to get fit again, or whatever, that they think in terms of some form of exercise that they can do, but enjoy doing. Because there's no point taking on exercise if after 3 months you decide, I don't want to go to the gym anymore. The great, again, part of the evidence that we've uncovered is that when people go to a dance class, they stay. It's, you know, they don't give it up after a few weeks unless they, you know, they really, really, really can't do it. But on the whole, people stay not just for 6 months or a year, but for a long time. It becomes part of their routine. And I always say, actually, you don't even have to go to a dance class if you don't want to.
No.
Why not just, you know, bop around the kitchen?
Kitchen disco. Yes.
And the men are the worst, because when they say to me, "Oh, I can't dance, I've got two left feet," or the family say, "It's dad dancing," I always say, "I love dad dancing,"
Yeah.
because you're not trying to win the glitter ball on Strictly. You're not trying to get a leading role in the Royal Ballet. You are just dancing for the joy of it.
Yeah.
And dad dancing is fabulous, because that's blokes just giving it well,
Going for
getting
it.
on with it and doing it for themselves, for the fun of it. And you don't have to mark them out of 10. It doesn't matter. They are doing what they enjoy. And no, people don't have two left feet. Everybody can dance. The great thing is, if you watch babies and put music on, when they
Yeah.
can walk, play the music, and they'll move to the music.
And they wriggle. Yeah.
They go with it.
It's amazing.
So just, everybody can move. One of the films we made for the one show, who supported everything we were doing leading up to March the 2nd this year, we did 5 separate films showing the advantage of dance in certain areas. And one of them, we went down to Southampton, where there's a wonderful girl called Zoe, who does dance for men who have mental health problems, including people in her class who have attempted suicide. And we went to film them, and it was wonderful. 30 men in a class dancing. And when I was interviewing them and saying, what made you realize that dance could help you? They all, to a man, said to me, "We don't dance. We move to music, but we don't dance." Well, of course, you play the music and they dance. But if it's the vocabulary that's stopping you,
yeah,
just move to music. Just in your own kitchen, your own bedroom, your own sitting room, your own garden. Play a bit of music and just let your body move. And you were right when you say that everybody can do it. Scottish Ballet, for several years now, have had a wonderful program that they take into hospitals, where they work with children, they work with the ICU, as do Chelsea and Westminster Hospital in London. They work in the ICU department, in every department of the hospital, even those people who are bedbound, because, again, doctors will tell you, nurses will tell you, if you lie in bed for a very long time in hospital, your muscles begin to atrophy.
Yeah.
And they actually do degenerate very quickly. They do what they call bedside ballet. And it isn't, it's not floating across doing ballet. They get the people in bed to move every bit of them that they can to music. Everybody can move some part, if not every part of their body to music. That's what dancing is. It releases endorphins. It releases wonderful natural chemicals within the body that make you love what you are doing. You will find that after half an hour dancing, you've used up more energy than you probably would if you went to a gym, and you've had a lot more fun doing it. And that's the message that I try to put across whenever I speak. And I've done lots of conferences this year. I'm going to be giving a presentation at the Parkinson's annual conference this year. In a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to be talking to the annual conference of health clubs in Britain, saying to them, look, you already have yoga and Pilates in your health clubs. Do some more health by having dance as well, and get to that part of the population that perhaps don't want to work on a gym, on the machines, or to do weights, but they probably would come if you offered them a dance class. So all the time I'm looking at organizations, talking to them, and pushing in all areas that I can the idea that dance really is the one exercise that will benefit the health and well-being of every part of your body. So just let's dance.
Just let's dance. Absolutely. And it's making me also think a lot as well about people who are in organizations. They're in businesses. They're sitting for far too many hours. I talk about movement breaks and so on. But actually, if you had movement breaks where someone got to put on their favorite tune, someone decided which was their favorite tune. Each day they managed to choose that, and then we played music in offices. I'm sure a few more people would get going. And
Shall I tell you something?
Go on.
Shall I just tell you something? I met a professor of economics who is thinking precisely what you have just said. And she's doing a program of research with, I think it might be Nottingham University. It's a university in the Midlands or the North, And what she has found so far is that if you have a break in your lunchtime and you dance, it improves your performance
I
by
bet.
more than 20% in the afternoon, because your body feels happy, you feel much more alive, and this has been working. And she said all the research they've done so far shows that if you do that in offices, you can increase people's productivity by at least 20%. That's just one little research
Yeah.
program that's going on at the moment, but it's all pointing in that direction. Dance is
Yeah.
good.
Dance is good in every way. Absolutely. So, one small step that people, if they have heard this, what would you say? Because I'm thinking mainly of the people who are perhaps the nervous kitchen
Mm-hmm.
dancers. I am not a nervous kitchen dancer. I'm a very excitable kitchen dancer, and I've always loved and have found these wonderful things. So I was a child of the 90s. Well, not a child, a teenager of the 90s. So I loved to go clubbing, and still do whenever I can. And there's a wonderful new thing that has come out where you can go to clubs sort of 50 plus, as I am, and dance in the afternoons, and it stops early evening, so we can still get to bed on time, which I absolutely love. So I'm all over that at the moment. So if that's something that you don't know about, then please, get in touch with me. I'll tell you all about them. But I'm thinking really of the people who would love to try to dance, but are a little bit nervous, and would like to try some kind of dance. You've got an experience of lots of different types of dance. What would you suggest were a couple that would be a good idea to start with, and how would they get that courage to go about it?
Well, I mean, I'm the ambassador for Silver Swans, for instance, which is the course that the Royal Academy of Dance run for people, men and women over 50, who would like to do ballet, who've never done it before. Now, ballet may not be everybody's choice, but it is a lot, because we now have, I think, 47 centres around the world where we do this. But the great thing about doing ballet is that you've got to, for half of the class, you've got a bar to hold on to. So if you're worried about what happens, you've got a bar, you can hang on to it when you're doing, pliés or whatever. So that gives you a lot of confidence, and a lot of people are doing that and absolutely loving it. But there are so many, do you want to do ballroom dancing? Have a think. Do you like country music? So line dancing. Think about what you enjoy doing, what you enjoy watching, and what you would like to. If you just want to do something that's just sort of moving to music, then again, just find a dance school that will give you the opportunity to do that. And a lot of people will start doing that, which is a kind of, it becomes really an aerobic exercise then to music, but it is dancing. Chichi Fit, for instance, do it, and they do it now all over the country. There are lots of ways. If you have something that you particularly like, it might be country dancing, it might be Irish dancing, it might be Highland dancing, it could be old time dancing, it could be, or for the men very often, Morris dancing, though they have women Morris dancing now.
Yeah.
Whatever you think you might like to do, or when you watch something like Strictly, the number of people who say to me, "Oh, I would love to learn the Argentine tango," which I did love dancing with Kai. Put Argentine dancing, put it in the computer and see what comes up.
Yeah.
But just think for yourself, what would I like to do that I think I might enjoy? And it might be a Zumba class, it might whatever, and talk to friends. One of my great supporters up in Birmingham is the Bhangra classes that they have up there.
Fantastic.
Bhangra is wonderful. I've spoken to, when we launched when we launched Let's Dance, we had a launch day about a month before the day of dance itself, and I had 12 different forms of dance being demonstrated in the Guildhall in London, just to show what we could do. We had some wonderful classical Indian dancers. There are wonderful dances that really sort of, they underpin the ethnic heritage of many countries. Greek dancing, Spanish dancing, Indian classical dancing, and there's loads of it.
Yeah.
Within perhaps your your ethnic group, if you like. You may know people who are doing a dance of a particular kind, and you might feel comfortable doing that, which kind of reinforces, if you like, your links with your cultural heritage. There are all sorts of dances that you can do. And really, it is just a question of saying, well, I'd like to learn how to move to music. I'd like to get fit. I'd like to have fun. I'd like to meet more people and not be stuck at home being isolated and lonely.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting. I'd like to do that. I can't say to anybody, this is what you should be doing.
No.
I can just say that, just think what you might like to do. And actually, if you jiggle around the house as a private kitchen dancer, that will probably tell you what you want to do.
Yes.
It is that you want to do the ballroom, or you want to do Latin, or you want to do some wonderful kind of cultural heritage dance. But do something that you know you'll enjoy. And if you find you're dancing and you're loving the dance, but you're not liking the style of dance, try another.
Yes.
Just do it, because it's so fun.
Yes. Just do it, exactly. And the type of music as well, obviously, depending on what you like to listen to, because we all know that there's certain tunes that or types of music that will really get us going, and others that won't. So leaning into whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you into a secret. My husband and I were petrified. Obviously, this is sort of nearly 30 years ago. Petrified about our first dance at our wedding.
Yes.
And we'd been traveling when we were younger and went to Argentina and had the wonderful fortune of seeing incredible Argentine tango dancers in the street, which obviously we don't have that in our culture, but absolutely incredible to witness. So we decided to do some dance classes to do a tango for our first dance, which I'd like to say was a success. It was a surprise. We loved it. And it was a very amusing process to try and get us there, because I don't think we'd left quite enough time. So the dance teacher said, okay, I'm going to not teach you how to tango. I'm going to teach you a routine to this song, and then you'll be learning the tango. And actually it was the perfect way to do it. So just like what you did in 1 week took us about 6 or 7 weeks, but we absolutely loved it. And it's been such a pleasure talking to you. I think this is a fantastic initiative, hence why I grabbed you at the summit to ask you to come on and share your story. I would really love for you to give me all the links you can so we can put them in the show notes, so that anyone who wants to get involved can reach out to you about getting involved. And what did you say, it was the 8th of March next year?
The 8th of March next year.
So
all the dance teachers in the country, in the whole of the UK that are involved,
yes,
will be doing lots of publicity beforehand. But we have a website for Let's Dance. Go on that and it'll tell you more about it. But just, if you're tempted, just go along to one of your dance classes. Just see who is doing what in your area. Go along. You don't have to join in if you don't want to. Just watch what they're doing. And if you like the look of it, you can dance.
And I love the idea of that being a day where probably a lot of people will be trying something as a new thing to them. So pretty much everyone who's going to be there will be in the same boat as you. So Absolutely. If you haven't managed to get the courage up before then, that is the day.
Well, what do they say? Dance like no one else is watching you. It doesn't matter what other people think. It's you. You're doing it. Just think of it as doing something wonderful for yourself that you will enjoy, but which will give you such joy and such pleasure, and the opportunity of meeting others who feel the same way.
Thank you so much for your time, Angela.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
I hope you've enjoyed listening, and if you have, you can help by doing 3 things. First, press the follow button to tell podcast platforms you want to listen again. Second, please give the show a 5-star rating and leave a review about why you liked it. And third, I'd love you to share it with friends and family or on your socials, for which I'm truly thankful. Finally, if this podcast is making you want to start reclaiming your own movement, join me in the Reclaim Movement membership for classes, both live and by replay, and countless videos of mini movement breaks to add into your daily life, covering practical and fun, important natural movements. Visit reclaimmovement.co.uk/membership to get started with your 7-day free trial. See you for the next episode, and thank you so much for listening.